where we stop, right? Right? I kind of like did it quick there, so we could go back very quickly. I think I wrote down 3 methods of, thank you, of the Federal Reserve Bank controlling the money supply. So what are they? Tell me.
OMO.
Right? OMO, it's one, yes, open market operation, and what's the second one?
Discount rate.
Discount rate. What's the third, last one? The RD ratio. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about today. So again, if you do the OMO, remember that's the example that Nathan, you and I have been going back. We had the deal, remember? So I don't want to get into big discussion here. But basically, if the Fed were to buy the bonds from the public, I'm releasing the 1 million back to the hands of the public, so money supply goes up. So again, money supply is represented like that, straight line in the Keynesian model. This is your MD, stands for demand for money. So please take notes. This is important. Yeah. So this is your equilibrium, and again, this is what kind of interest rate is this?
Nominal.
Nominal. Okay, very good. So now, so if the Fed were to buy bonds from the public, so purchase a bond, so that's the word we use. From the public, the money supply will shift to the right. So we call it expansionary. So MS shift right, and we have a term for it, expansionary monetary policy. Okay. Oh, remember other words I use, I say will come out on your test, we call it loosening of monetary policy. You know, you relax it instead of it expands. Okay, so if that's the case, you can see that the interest rate will be lower, right? And the money stock will go up from M star 1 to M star 2. This is money stock. Okay, so the other day we talked about why the demand curve for money is downward sloping. And that's because the higher the nominal interest rate, people will want to put the money in the bank. If you put the money in the bank, then you take out less to consume and take out less to invest. So the flip side of it would be you would demand for more money if the interest rate is low, like say 0.5%, and your reaction would be, yuck, forget it. I don't want to put my money in the bank. I'm just going to drive on and go to the broker's house, you know, to invest. Or I'm just going to go to Bill, Macy, shop, go on a shopping spree, you know, things like that. Okay, so that's what happened, and vice versa. Vice versa will be you shift the money supply curve to the left. Okay, so that would be if the Fed were to sell bonds to Nathan, and then suddenly he becomes what happened? Poor. He's poor because he paid me, right? He paid me $1 million, now he's $1 million poorer. So money supply. Okay, remember Nathan represents the public. So then money supply shift to the left, and then the interest rate will be higher in this case, and everything will be opposite. So if you could sell bonds to the public, money supply could shift left. We call that contractionary monetary policy. Okay, very good. So let's look at this. You've seen this. This is exactly what I drew earlier. So then we say, wow. How do I explain this concept? So remember, there is one very important assumption. I do not think that I emphasized it too much in the last class. That is, remember one of the assumptions about Keynesian model is number 1 is short term. Number 2, prices are fixed, so we don't have inflation. Right. So then the other thing is, if you look at the, there are only 2 forms of assets. in Keynesian model. One is money, the other one is bonds, interest-bearing bonds. So remember we went over that example about what is known as LD, liquidity preference. We say, well, they prefer cash. They prefer checking account and not something like the other assets that are tangible, well, like classic cars, but you have to sell it. Things like that, or like a mutual fund. So in other words, in Keynesian model, it's very restricted. So either bonds or money. Okay, so there are two forms. Let's just write it down. So make it easy for you. So we got money, and then versus bonds. And this bonds is interest bearing. It's got interest that comes with it. Okay, so one or the other two. So when you explain the Keynesian model here, let's look at the diagram we have. Now, if you start off with the I right there, you see the E? E is the equilibrium nominal interest rate and equilibrium money stock. So now, assuming that if the interest rate is slightly lower, like at I1, so at I1, you draw the line across, it touches a green line there, and you say, oh, the money demand is greater than money supply at this point right here. And that's so, that is true, because the money demand curve is a green one, money supply is right here. Okay, so the demand for money is greater than supply of money. So then it results in some sort of shortages of money. So this is how the Keynesian monetary policy works. So if you do not have enough money, you have shortage of money, then you go for the other asset, which is your bonds. And what do you do? To get more money, you sell bonds. Got it? You sell bonds. So now, if you sell bonds, if everybody does it in the economy, everybody starts selling bonds. Say, oh yeah, we didn't have enough money, we didn't have enough cash, but have no fear, we got these bonds waiting in the bank, so why don't we sell them? So we can get more money. So as soon as you sell bonds, right, everybody does it in the whole economy. What do you think will be happen to the price of bonds? If everybody starts selling them?
They're gonna go down.
Yes, coming down. Very good. So let's write this down. This is a relationship. I think we skipped this concept earlier, so I'm gonna just give it to you. Write it down, please. Relationship between price of bond and nominal interest rate. What kind of relationship do they have? Inverse. I'm just going to state it for you. This is 5-star concept. There's an inverse relationship between the price of bonds and the nominal interest rate. Not any kind of interest rate, but the nominal interest rate. In other words, if the price of bonds goes up, then your nominal interest rate will come down, and vice versa. Okay, so going back to that example we were talking about. Okay, Jake, I think you said the price of bonds will come down. Everybody start trying to sell bonds just to get some money. Okay, because there are only two assets you could hold. Since you're shortage of money, but you do have some bonds, so you sell the bonds. And if everybody starts selling the bonds, then the price of bonds falls. Right? And if that's the case, interest rate goes up according to this theory, because it's inverse relationship between the price of bonds, I hope you write this down, and the nominal interest rate, not the real interest rate. So you have that situation. So if that's the case, right, then what you expect to do is the interest rate will come back up eventually to restore the so-called equilibrium in the money market. It used to be an in-class exercise we did, but I'm not sure if we do it yet. Okay, so next, another example. So remember earlier we say, so if you want to practice this expansionary monetary policy, all that the Fed has to do is to buy the bonds from the public. And if you do so, money supply will shift to the right. So that's what they do. They're buying bonds from the public. And money supply will increase or shift to the right. And if you shift to the right, your nominal interest rate would be a point F. the second equilibrium point from point E drop to point F when MS shift to the right. And you could see that, oh yeah, so the money stock goes up. And that makes sense. Because if money supply goes up, because now you got 1 million. Now the public has 1 million. Okay, so if that's the case at point F here, right, you actually, instead of having a shortage in money, you would have a surplus in money. So because money supply has gone up, because suddenly, you got this $1 million rebate. So if the money supply goes up and we have what you call a surplus of money, that means too much money. So then what do you do with the too much money? You buy bonds. That's a good time to buy. So if everybody start doing that, not just one person, but everybody in this class start jumping up and say, okay, we're going to go out and buy bonds now. What's going to happen to the price of bonds? Go up, yes. So higher the demand and price, push the price up. Very good. So then non-money asset, that's the bond, prices will go up and then interest rate will fall. So that explains how you got from point E to point F. That you will have a lower nominal interest rate when the price of bonds goes up. Okay? So that. So the important thing about this two slides that I show you basically is going back to that concept that is that in the Keynesian monetary policy it can only hold two things. There's no such a thing as, wait a minute, I got a classic car, let me sell it now and I got money. No. You only have two kinds. That is cash, which is money, because we call it liquidity preference, or the assets. Well, excuse me, be more specific, the bonds, which is interest bearing. Okay, so this is basically the opposite of it. So if you want to practice contractionary monetary policy, you shift to the left by selling bonds. If you sell bonds, what happened to the public? Poorer, right? So money supply goes down because money supply could shift to the left, and then you have a shortage of money. And if you have shortage of money, then what you do is you start selling your bonds, assuming that you always have some around all the time. And you start selling bonds, once again, the price of bonds, what happened? We went over there just now. If you start selling bonds, everybody do that. Yeah, price of bonds goes down, and then the nominal interest rate goes up. So this is just really to try to understand the relationship between that price of bonds and interest rate, nominal interest rate, that is. And then there are two other methods we have not talked about, which is also the methods in which a Federal Reserve Bank could also control the money supply. And one of them is called discount rate. Now when you see the word discount rate, some of you get very excited. They say, oh yeah, let's go to Macy's and shop big time. Thanksgiving's coming, Black Friday is coming, oh yes. Let's just wait till Black Friday and then we start shopping big. A lot of people are doing that now. So, okay, what is discount rate? Discount rate here is not that kind of discount rate. It's talking about the discount rate, the interest rate that the Federal Reserve Bank charges commercial banks. So what are your banks? First Bank, BB&T, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, State Union, what is it? State Employees Credit Union, right? So these are some of your banks. So the Federal Reserve Bank or the central bank also loan money to your banks. Did you know that? We have a term for it. What's that term? We talked about it the other day. Not quite that direction, but like if commercial banks were to borrow money from each other, we have a term for it. Anybody remember?
Interbank lending.
Okay, interbank loans, very good. And another word that's more familiar with the media is they call it federal funds rate, FFR. Well, anyway, so this is a case where, now, you know that commercial banks sometimes got into trouble. Bank is not like security like you think, that umbrella that you always see, yeah, it's very secure, you're outside, the rain is out there, but you're inside the umbrella. It's not always like that. Sometimes they fail. So sometimes they go up to Big Daddy and say, please help me. The Federal Reserve Bank, central bank is like a big daddy. The lender of last resort. You heard about that term. If you fail, all things fail, come to Big Daddy. We always got some money to loan. That's what they do. They go to the Big Daddy and say, please, loan us some money. So, okay, you're going to get some money back. It's not free. Of course, it's not free. They're going to charge an interest rate. And that interest rate is known as discount rate. That's what it is. Okay, so that's what it is, a lending of Federal Reserve Bank to the commercial bank. So let's look at the relationship. Do you think, okay, if we give example, it's easier for you to understand. So what if the discount rate at the beginning, say it's 5%, okay? And then you go to the Federal Reserve Bank and then they look at you and say, okay, Evan, what you got? You've been doing this and that, so okay, so you want to borrow some money today. I'm going to charge you, instead of 5%, I'll charge you 10. What's your reaction?
Are they gonna charge me 10% interest?
Yeah, interest rate.
I'll be upset.
You'd be upset and walk away and say, no thanks, no sir, you know, or you could say something like, this is ridiculous, something like that. Anyway, so you wouldn't take the bait. You basically say goodbye because it's too high. Nobody wants to borrow. But instead of 5%, if they were to say, well, I think I make a mistake. I made the write down like, 3%. I don't know. My hand slipped, I wrote 10. So here it is. It's 3%. What do you think? Say, yes, I'll go for it, right? Because that's better. So if you go for it, you borrow 10 million or 10 billion or whatever, the money reserve goes up in the bank, so money supply goes up. So that's what it means. So in other words, if you lower the discount rate, it's considered as expansionary monetary policy. Because they put the money back into commercial bank and then they could start doing the business, whatever business they're doing. So yeah, the gist is they will increase the reserve. So interest rate that the Fed charges gonna, yeah, we already know it. So lower the discount rate will increase the reserve. Put the power back into the hands of the BB&T, whatever bank yours are, First Bank. Okay, and the money supply. Whoa. So remember that. I just stated, you may want to write down. So this expansionary monetary policy, alternative method, instead of buying bonds, second one is lower the discount rate. This discount rate, once again, is applying to the interest rate that commercial banks are being charged by the Federal Reserve Bank or the central bank. Okay, so that's good. That's your expansionary monetary policy. Okay, next, the last one is your, a while ago you said, Miss Adams? No, you're not Miss Adams, sorry. You are Miss Denson. Yeah, sorry. Or you say lower the rear, what was that? The RD ratio, right? That's one of the third methods. Okay, so what do you think you have to do? Do you have to lower it or do you have to raise it if you want it to be expansionary monetary policy? Think about it for a second. Now, if you're not sure, don't jump up and say right away. Always good to give example, right? Example is so much easier to follow. So let's just say we start with, okay, we use the same one, 10. Well, okay, 10% is the RD ratio. This is our example. Okay, we started with RD ratio 10%, and what does that mean? That means the bank have to set aside 10%. What about the other 90%? What happened? So the other 90% you use it to make loans, right? Make money out of all you guys, unsuspecting students, we charge you student loans, yes, auto loans, what else? What are some things you do? PC, computer. So all those things, so in other words, if it's 10%, then they only have 90% to loan. So this is how they make money, this part here. So now, if you go up to them, you say, and if you want expansionary monetary policy, you will actually have to lower this by, say, well, the point is to lower it. So let's just say lower to 5%. Is that good? For them, it is, because now it's a 90% loan. Please, this smiling face is on the perspective of the bankers, not you. So they make more money. So that's good. In other words, they have more to loan now, so money supply. Well, how do they have more to loan now? From the money supply. Well, excuse me, from the reserve. So if you lower the RD ratio, lower discount rate, this is all example of expansionary monetary policy, and vice versa. Okay, so if I explain one side, I think you understand the other side. So now let me go to chapter 3 very quickly. Okay, so next I want to cover chapter 13 very quickly, and that was it. So that whole chapter is about the Keynesian monetary policy and other assumption. So the last chapter, which is chapter 13, actually second last, because chapter 14 we only do about 7 slides, that was it. And that's why I have to get started now. We start talking about 2 things. Now we talk about demand supply so much since the beginning of semester, right? We talk about product market, what else? Capital market, money market, labor market. Any more? Okay, that's about it. So now we're introducing the term aggregate demand, aggregate supply. This is a whole economy we're talking about now. The whole economy. That's therefore the term aggregate demand. Not just demand from one industry, but the whole industry, the whole economy now. You have your so-called aggregate demand, aggregate supply curve. Now, so remember, I kept saying that, oh, the number one important assumption in Keynesian model is you keep the price fixed. The price is sticky. You cannot touch the price. Now, in this chapter, which is chapter 13, we will relax that assumption. That is, remember that we also say, well, that inflation cannot keep that way forever. You cannot try to control the price forever, because if you look out the window, the aisles, ice cream stall, you see 20 people, and then the next minute you look, you see 200. Remember, you cannot change the price because they'll get mad in the short run. But then, after like a month, 2 months, 3 months, you look out, you see 2,000 and say, oh gosh, it's getting bigger and bigger. They want my ice cream. They love my ice cream. So it's time to raise the price. You can't, keep the price down forever. So there's a tendency because of excess demand, remember, we talk about that. Okay. So in the Keynesian model, we talk about preset price in the short run. We didn't talk about inflation, but then we know that the output gap, our famous friends here again, RG and EG, it can make the inflation increase or decrease in the long run. Oh, yes. So let's go back to our famous diagram. Let's see if you remember since chapter 10. So if you're on the right-hand side, you have EG, right? If you're on the left-hand side, you have
RG.
the RG. Okay. If you're in EG, this is our famous example that everybody got 10,000. We go to the mall and they raise the price. So inflation goes up here. Remember that? Excess demand. This is a review, really. What about this side? I don't talk about this side so much, but we should. Because we like to talk about inflation, we don't like to talk about, trying to fix the economy, you have to go for what's wrong. So how do we fix it? Now, if you're in recessionary gap, right? Well, businesses are in trouble. So do you think, and to some extent, you have a high unemployment rate. So people might get laid off. Do you think people have money to buy? Not so much. So, well, yeah, you got the whole store full of stuff that you think you could get rid of this merchandise? Not during recession. So what do you have to do? Have a yard sale, discount, to get rid of the merchandise. So if you, let's just say if you have a yard sale, discount, or whatever sales you call it, okay. Typically, we know the price comes down. right? So inflation comes down. Now, some textbook does not like the use of word inflation comes down. Because they say, well, inflation didn't really come down. It just means that, it doesn't rise as fast. Okay, whatever it is, it's the same thing here. Now, so the AD stands for aggregate demand, AS stands for aggregate supply. It shows that both inflation and output. Okay, so we're gonna look at that next. And the diagram is extremely important because in this last set of exercise, you have to draw a diagram. And if your diagram is wrong, then you don't get it because the answer typically very much depends on your diagram. So here's the situation here. We have three lines now. We first of all have an aggregate demand curve that's downward sloping like your typical demand curve. And basically each line, each drop, or each point along the AD curve represent your PAE. So that's your balloon of your economy. So because, each point represent an equilibrium in your PAE diagram, ECN model. Okay, just so that you know. And then you have your aggregate supply curve, which is upward sloping. So you have a point here, and then on this way it intersect demand and supply cross with quiet. So then you have this potential GDP here. We call this LRAS. It stands for long run aggregate supply curve. And I want you to tell me what's on the y-axis, what's on the x-axis. So on the y-axis is? Very good, you're paying attention. Note that it's not PAE, but it's your inflation rate, and here is your output or income. Very good. So a point A here has a very special name, is known as initial long-run equilibrium. And I want to emphasize that three line intersect. Okay, please write this down. This is a good part to take note. Okay, so you did pay attention that on your y-axis is now inflation rate, and then on your x-axis is now income. So aggregate demand curve will show the relationship between planned spending and the inflation rate. Boy, there it is. Your AD curve, every point on it is your PAE. So it does show the relationship between PAE and then your inflation rate. In other words, now we have inflation. Unlike these two other chapters previously, we call Keynesian's model. Now, aggregate supply curve show how output produced by firm depend on the inflation rate. Okay, then we know our old friend, potential GDP or Y star. Okay, so next, so the assumption for point A, which we have a special name called initial long-run equilibrium, what does that mean? That means that you have three lines, aggregate demand, aggregate supply, LRAS intersecting. It means that your actual output is equal to potential output. Yeah. There is no discrepancy. Do you see any gap? Nope. So your Y is equal to Y star right there. What else? Your actual inflation rate equals to expected inflation rate. That one we'll get into it later when we talk about aggregate supply curve. But for now, what this is saying is that your actual inflation rate is also your expected inflation rate at that point where your three lines are intersecting. Do you know that looks like what's that country? The England, the flag of England. Got three lines, right? All right. So next, this is important. So I'm going to draw a diagram here, and you help me out. Because if you understand this diagram, you understand the whole chapter. To some extent. It saves you 20 pages of reading. If you understand this, hey, you got everything. Yeah. So let's start off with your potential GDP, so LRAS, which is a vertical line, and don't forget to label your diagram, because I'll take out points, if you're not labeled this correctly on your Y and X axis. Some of you don't, and you should. Okay, next, let's use a color. And we're gonna say aggregate supply curve is going to be right here, upward sloping. And aggregate demand curve is going to intersect on this side here. Okay? So then, straight away, where AD and AS curve intersect, you drop down the line. That's your actual output, and tell me what gap is that? Okay, very good. Now, see, you can appreciate drawing all this diagram because basically it's to pick up what kind of output gap it is. So if you're in recessionary gap, so let's call this point B here. So point B is your, what do we call, short run equilibrium. Okay, I'm gonna write, to emphasize it, two lines intersect. And usually the two lines are only aggregate demand and aggregate supply, not your vertical line, because that's your long run equilibrium. So if you're at point B, you're not happy because you say, oh yeah, we have a problem. We have a recessionary gap. So in order to correct that, there are a few ways to do it. So let's talk about it. How do you get back to where the LIAS curve is? What are some of the things that you could do, graphically speaking? What's one way you could do? I know at least two ways. How do you get back to Y star by producing more? Graphically speaking, let's go with the green line first. What do you have to do with the green line?
Decrease the demand.
Yeah, very good. You would do like that, right? You would shift the AD curve to the right. That's one way. Until finally you hit this point here. So that will be your point C. Now, if you do that, you have to practice, later on we'll talk about it, expansionary monetary or fiscal policy by increasing the demand, like you say, Evans. Okay, so if you do that, yes, you corrected the output gap. But at the expense of higher inflation rate. See that? So that's always a trade-off thing. Now, if you don't do it that way, what's another way you could do it? From the perspective of AS. You would have to?
Increase the supply.
Okay, increase the supply. I like the term you use. You use the word increase the supply, or you lower the graph, or shift it to the right. Okay, that's another way to do it. So you got C prime. D. Okay, so if you do that, you have to lower the aggregate supply curve. Anyway, I think you get the point. It's to try to get back to that output gap as much as possible. So that's how it is. Okay, so recognizing what kind of gap is very important. So next is another, this one I wouldn't do the diagram, but you could see that it can also have another scenario where you start off with your AS-AD curve intersect on the right or to the right of potential GDP. If that's the case, you drop this down, you say this is your Y1, and what kind of gap do we have there? Expansionary gap, because now your Y1 is to the right of your potential GDP. Now you can really appreciate that chapter 10, we keep doing the diagram. So then what do you have to do with AD? You have to correct it, you have to drop the AD line down. Until you hit this point here. Got it? So you have to practice contractionary monetary or fiscal policy until you corrected it. And in this case, it's good because you ended up with a lower inflation as compared to point A here. So what's another way you could do from a perspective of that pink line, AS curve?
Increase.
Be careful about using the term when you use aggregate supply curve. You will shift to the left. And shift to the left actually means decrease. Yeah. Go up there until you get to that point. And then there, you have corrected it. So basically that's the spirit for this chapter. So next we want to talk about why AD curve is downward sloping. Why? So if it is downward sloping, it has to be true that your inflation and your income is negatively related. So let's look at it and see if that's true. So you start out with saying aggregate demand curve is where all the C plus I plus D plus NX. That's kind of like your PAE. Okay, where your C is your consumers, your I is your firms, your G is your government, and then the government consumer abroad is your NX. Okay, all the factors are constant. We say that the aggregate demand curve is sloping downwards because if you look at this, right, if you have high inflation, remember we are going to the mall to shop and then we say, oh boy, it's inflation. And if there's inflation, can people spend more or less? You will end up spending less, yeah. So consumption comes down and you will end up not invest as much. NX also comes down, you won't, import as much. So therefore, PAE in general comes down. The balloon of the economy gets smaller, so Y comes down. And notice that at the beginning, pi goes up. At the end, Y comes down. What does that mean? That means it explains the relationship between that downward sloping AD curve. The higher the inflation rate, like from here to here, here, the lower is the income. So that explains why it is downward sloping. Next, we will also introduce this, remember Fisher effect from earlier chapter? We say that, how many of you remember what's the Fisher effect? What does it say? There are two things that move together. What are the two things? One is, I give you the first one, you tell me the second one. One is inflation rate. It moves in tandem with the other rate. What's the other one?
No.
Nominal interest rate. It moves in the same fashion. So we have a rule I highlighted. It's called monetary policy rule. And this says that the Fed will take action to respond to changes in the state of the economy according to the inflation. If the inflation is high, the Fed will see it as a signal that we should raise the interest rate. And they do it with real interest rate first. Because remember we got this equation. R equals to I minus pi. And keep coming back to this one. So when inflation falls, the Fed would do by the same thing accordingly, same fashion and same direction. The Fed will actually decrease the real interest rate. So if you see this diagram, this is kind of like your Fisher effect, but we call it a monetary policy rule. So this is a rule that says if inflation goes up, the Fed will take it as a cue to increase the real interest rate, not the nominal interest rate, because remember that real interest rate affects your PAE. That's what you do in your homework. I don't see you're solving for little I see you're solving for little r. Okay, so now this is a typo, please. That thing is not supposed to be there. I couldn't get rid of it, so scratch this out. So this means that vice versa is true. If the pi goes down, inflation comes down, then the Fed will take it as a cue to, or a clue to lower the real interest rate. So again, coming back to the AD curve, one of the important objectives of the Federal Reserve Bank is to make sure that inflation does not rise up quickly. That you have a stable, not only stable, but low inflation rate. Okay, fair enough. That's what you do. You are government. Inflation is likely to happen when Y is greater than Y star. Our famous example, we have expansionary gap or excess demand. To control the inflation, the Fed must keep the income from exceeding Y star. So one way to do it is when you have inflation, the Fed would remember using that monetary policy rule, they will increase the real interest rate. So watch what happened. A chain of reaction. So if there's inflation, then they raise the real interest rate. And then remember, that's your homework assignment you just did. Then C and I's of P will come down because interest rate goes up from 1% to 10%. Then people say, yeah, I put my money in the bank, so I will not consume as much. I will not invest as much. PAE comes down, Y comes down. And once again, you see that beginning, pi goes up, Y comes down. And that once again explains why there's inverse relationship between inflation rate and income, and explains why AD curve is downward sloping. So, and this is the same thing except it's the opposite. So if you're in recessionary gap, that's when you have to do your yard sale, remember, to get rid of the merchandise. So then if that happen, one way to do it is, in other words, inflation does not rise as much. I think I erased that diagram already. So inflation comes down, then the Fed would take it as a cue to lower the real interest rate. And if you do that, CNI, so P goes up, PAV goes up, Y goes up. Then again, pi and y has this opposite relationship or inverse relationship. So therefore, AD curve is downward sloping. Okay. Okay, I'll stop right here because I want to make sure I have a very clean cut there. So again, your homework assignment is due on Wednesday.
You didn't send it around.
And we'll meet back here. I will continue this